All right. Can you
Yay.
hear me?
I can hear you.
All right, perfect. So let's just start with let's know you, what you
hmm
do, and where you are.
Okay. My name is Addoley Dzegede. I'm an artist, and I'm currently in Portland, Oregon, in the
Nice,
U.S.
nice. Um, so because you're in the US, I think it's right for me to ask. Just getting the news from the US and just saying that the virus,
hmm
not like the virus set out to target Black people, but
hmm
it's particularly very harsh on the Black people, and
Yeah.
constantly you're seeing how the virus is exposing the system that
hmm
is America, when it comes to Black oppression,
hmm
healthcare, education, and all of this. So has it been for you as an artist, as a Black person, as a woman? Have you been
hmm
reflecting on this?
It's been interesting to see the shift over time because I remember just as recent as the beginning of March, we were saying like we haven't heard of any Black people getting it. It doesn't seem to have reached Africa. It's like we were like maybe this is it's going to skip
Yeah,
us. Like
yeah,
this time there'll be something because people at first were like, oh, it's only killing old people, which is not okay in any way. But people were like not so concerned.
yeah,
But now that it's reached the U.S., you see that it has more to do with. It has less to do necessarily with age and to do with your health. And in the
yeah,
U.S., since we have such an unequal system when it comes to healthcare and access, you see how it's affecting people of color, and you see how all the underlying health conditions that come from oppression, from being in food deserts, from having stress from racism, stress from inequality and poverty, are affecting people's bodies in a way that allows the virus uh, to kill them.
yeah.
And I think in some ways people are like, oh no, don't, in some ways you want it to be known that it's affecting Black people more, but then because of racism in the US, some people are like, I wish they didn't know it was affecting Black people more because they're going to care even less.
Yeah.
Because some
Um,
people will be like, it's people with pre-existing conditions, it's older people, and it's people of color. They won't really care.
yeah, that's true. Um, so this, I don't know. I really do not want to focus on the virus, right?
hmm
Because this is a reality that we can escape, right? So
hmm
um, let's go back to maybe the beginning. So growing up, right?
hmm
What do you think inspired the person you are now? If you look back at your younger self, from a kid to the person I'm speaking with right now, the woman I'm speaking with right now, if you start
hmm
looking back, are there moments where you be like, wow, this moment was very, very essential to who I am now?
I think there's lots of moments. I think as a kid, your reality is normal. Then you go to school, you start to realize how you're different than other families, other people, and you have different traditions. And then you go through periods of like being upset about that or rejecting that, and then embracing it and realizing the ways that you fit in, the ways that you don't, where you don't want to fit in. I think a lot of my perspective came from the friends that my family had, my parents' friends. I grew up in South Florida. It's a very diverse place in the US, and there's a lot of people from the Caribbean and from Africa and
Mm,
from other places that are warm. If you're going to live in the US, a lot of times people don't want to move somewhere that's cold.
code, yeah.
And like, for instance, my parents. Um, and so I grew up with that being my reality, but then that's not the reality of this country. So a lot of, that always had me having a global outlook because, we have friends from Sri Lanka and from Jamaica and from Nigeria and from Ghana and from other places in the world. So you're not having this kind of like insular idea of the world
Yeah.
and this American centric idea. So that really shaped me. And then also my sister moving away from home. She's 7 years older than me,
Mm,
and she met all kinds of people and was doing interesting things. And so that expanded my idea of what my life could be, and made me want to leave Florida and see other places. And my parents were really interested in travel and curious about the world. So whenever they could, we would travel.
That's
My
nice.
dad he seems to know people in all countries. Like no matter where you go, he's like, oh, my cousin lives in Israel. Yeah. Yeah. So
Okay.
that shaped me.
Okay. Yeah, I can see. So what do you think? What do you think? At what point did it dawn on you to be like, okay, I'm an artist. I'm not just
Mhm.
someone who likes art. I'm not just someone
Mhm.
who likes to participate in the arts. I'm an artist, and the way I think is different. At what point did you register that for yourself?
I think there've been many moments of that happening. Like in school, that happened where I realized that was what I cared about most. I was good in math and biology, and and math and science, and also in English. For a while, I pursued writing, but art was the thing that I wanted to do. It wasn't just about doing what I was good at, but also like something that gave me, I guess, more freedom, because I'm a emotional, expressive person, and so it was like a perfect fit for me. So then I decided I wanted to go to an art school, which my parents were kind of like, "Are you sure? Maybe go to a good university that has an art program." And my dad would always say, "You could be a doctor and then do art on the side, or when you retire." And I was like, "Oh no, I'm not interested in that." Um, so there was that, but then even after school, I wasn't sure what being an artist meant, and so over time it's been an evolution of realizing over an apprenticeship at a textile museum. It's the Fabric Workshop and Museum in Philadelphia. And during that time, in exchange for learning the skills, you helped out at the museum, and so we gave tours to people that came in. And I remember being so frustrated every time I got interrupted from my work to give a tour, and every time I got interrupted to help on an artist project or like a production project that we were doing. And so I think that was a really defining moment where I was like, I want to be the artist, who people are helping work on their project, and getting tours of my work. And so that was a moment that was in 2015.
Okay, so before I ask my next question, I would actually now anyone who's watching this knows that you're an artist, right?
Hmm.
But I would really want you to introduce your art, like your medium. I know that textile is like you're completely in love with textile, but I
Hmm.
want to talk about your medium and why you chose to use set mediums.
Okay.
Okay.
So I mean, now it's easy for me to say that I'm a text artist. It kind of encompasses what I've been doing for the past, I guess, 4 years.
Yeah.
But I like to use a variety of media, and I'm really interested in learning new things. Like when I came to Ghana last year, I went to Kumasi and worked with a brass caster, and he cast some wax sculptures I had made. And I've made artist books and videos and animations. So there's a variety of things that I do. But I think what draws me to textiles is, well, first of all, the beauty of them and the history. And then when you look further into the history, finding out the different influences that come to play in something that we consider traditional. So like I keep finding traditional things that are influenced by other cultures, or they actually started somewhere else and were adapted or adopted. And so I feel like it's an infinite source of for research and for new knowledge.
Yeah. So because the way I look at textile is it's kind of like a medium or a material that tells a lot of story,
Hmm.
depending on where the textile is coming from, how old the textile is, what
Hmm.
what do you what do you set out every time you embark on a journey of finding new materials? What do you set out to find? What are you looking out for? Um, is it an energy? Is it a color? Is it like what do you set out to find?
Hmm. It's a variety of things. Like for a long time, I was really interested in indigo. And so I was researching the history of that. And then you see the different cultures that have used indigo, and how important the color blue has been in history. And there's an author, Catherine McKinley, who spent a lot of time in Ghana. And I met with her. Like I asked her to write for a catalog about my work. And so I met with her. So just finding a community of people who are interested in the same things. And then I started to read about the color red. So to me, it's been interesting because now we have access to so many different colors and materials and processes that used to be very precious. You realize how important textiles were in history and what people were willing to do for them, you know, to enslave people, to have them grow the cotton or to grow the indigo or to produce, you know, vibrant reds that spoke about class status. And so you start to realize that something that we kind of in many ways take for granted today is had significant, enormous significance throughout history. So I think I guess I look for what keeps me intrigued is looking for influences in the history and finding out the meaning behind things. Because, you know, if you see something woven from the past, it doesn't have the same significance now as it did when someone was like making it or trying to acquire it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. It does. It also opens room for my next question. So we look at identity because for me, I feel like you can't really separate the things we do from who we are. That's what I feel, right?
Yeah.
And some people, they carry that, you know, and some people say, no, separate me from my work, right? And meeting you in Accra and just observing how you work and how you talk, everything is all intertwined together. They all go. So my question now is, it's a two-part question, right? So as an artist, do you feel like you carry the burden to always represent your community? And what community is that?
I feel like in some ways I carry that burden, but in others, I think I make it more individual and tailor it to my own experiences and my own life and my own history. Like a lot of the textiles I'm interested in are have to do with my ancestral histories. So in that way, I guess I used to think of it as a burden, but then I realized that having the window of my own experience, which in many ways is unique, allows me to have access to certain things and allows me to talk about them. So it's become less of a burden and more, I guess, of a maybe an advantage.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. I can see how you feel this way, because you're one of the few people when I met. That's like you're just graceful, like the way you approach things, the way you see things. Um, you are never edgy or anything. And so my question now is, how do you? You're smiling, okay.
I'm not edgy.
No, I'm not saying you don't have edgy moments, but the way you move, the way you interact, the way you speak about your work, it's it's very calming. It's very soothing, you know. And I feel like that's like a superhero weapon that you have. It's like I don't think anybody can hear you talk about your work and be like, oh, I'm not interested, you know.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So, but now we're looking at history. We're looking at, you just said ancestral history. How do you embark on that journey? You know, to peel the surface. You know, because every textile you deal with, coming from any part of the continent, has a story, and you can link those stories from, okay, let's say West Africa to just so many ancestral points, Black ancestral stories in America, and it's so large, this Black identity crisis, because for me I feel like it's a global thing, you know. Even if your ancestors were not on the ship being taken across the Atlantic, that journey affects all Blacks in some way, affects some people more and affects some people less. Some people are conscious of it and some people are not, but you are conscious of it. So when you are embarking and you're meeting these materials, and so two questions. Are you always trying to reclaim, right? Reclaim the identity, what it is to be Black, what it is to be free, what it is to be independent? Is this an interaction that you continuously have with your work? And also, how do you manage the mental and psychological um, weight that comes with this work?
I think what I'm pursuing more is, I don't want to say truth, but in a way truth, because
Yeah.
for instance, people identify wax prints with Africa, but then the truth is, it's a Dutch remodeling of Indonesian batik, like an attempt to industrialize it and make a profit. And then to this day, Vlisco is still headquartered in the Netherlands and making money off of selling wax print to Africa and the diaspora. Yeah. So to me, I think more it's a search of uncovering these connections, because just like with the color indigo, you could be interested in it for its chemical properties. You could be interested in it visually, aesthetically, as a craft form. But then if you learn anything about it, you realize all the connections. And there's this kind of like brutality and exploitation that is connected to all these things that we can easily forget, because textiles aren't necessarily something that usually has it's not like a painting in a museum where it comes with all this information. You could buy a piece of cloth and it could have been taken from someone's grave, or it could have been traded, in unfair practices, or, there's so little just from looking at textiles that And so I think it's this uncovering that connects all the places that I'm interested in. You start to see how global the production of textiles is, from where the materials come from, where the dyes, natural dyes originally came from, what kind of plants, the labor involved in processing them, who makes money off of them versus who works on them, who wears them, who identifies them as part of their culture. So more so that than kind of trying to claim, did you say freedom?
Yeah.
To assert my freedom. But in a way, I guess uncovering the history of things is a way to assert your freedom. Yeah, because you're saying like, I have this access to information, and I'm going to reveal the truth behind these things.
Because if you find the truth that, wax print is not owned by Africans, it's not owned by a Black person in Ghana, it's owned by a company in the Netherlands, you kind of are empowered to now say, okay, so what can I own, or what can I do that truly represents me? And there are some people who would argue like, well, I don't care where it's being produced, it's our own, it's coming from this part of the world, and we will reclaim it. I feel like there's so many ways to enter, just the way I feel like there's so many ways to enter what it means to be Black,
Definitely.
what it means to be African. There's so many parts. But I'm coming back to just saying things that you said, you the word truth, and I'm going to come back to that. I'm going to come back to that. But I know that because of the type of work you do, you're constantly moving, right? You're constantly moving, and it's very inspiring, because I am one person who loves movement, I won't say, but something attached to moving is the constant state of either starting afresh, a very continuous long stretch of continuous, right? So where is home? What is home?
That's been a big question. Like, that's actually was the main question of my work until maybe 4 or 5 years ago, because I never felt at home as an American, I am an American, but it's something that's always being questioned, and just almost on a daily basis, people
Yeah.
ask me, where's your name from? Then you have to, like, just my name makes me have to tell people all about myself.
Yeah.
They get to know so much about me. And then it's not in the same way that if someone's name was like Jane, they don't get questioned like, oh, where's your name from? Oh, Ghana. Okay. Well, have you been there? Do you speak any languages? Just all these kinds of questions. Like even one time, this woman, I was working at a paper store.
Yeah.
And this woman, I had to wear a name tag, and she asked me my name, and then she called her family over. It was like,
Wow.
this is Addoley. Yeah.
Wow.
Her name is from Ghana. So I'm getting off track. What was your question?
Where's home?
Oh, where is home?
I think you're on track.
So home, it's never felt like it's the US. As a kid it did, but then as you get older and your identity and your belonging is questioned constantly, and having a father who's from Ghana, and when your friends come over, they see like you have a different lifestyle, different culture, different food. So I always felt like Ghana was constantly there, but then also when I go to Ghana, I don't fit in. Like I've never lived in Ghana. I don't speak away, like my father, he speaks many languages. And some of my cousins even are just like, you talk too fast, like slow down. So just even even within my family, that I don't think home for me is a place, because I adapt pretty quickly, and I feel really comfortable in places pretty quickly. And I actually think I thrive from that kind of movement. Like you were saying, I think you're saying you do as well.
Yeah.
That kind of fresh energy of I'm really curious about seeing how other people live. Like I love walking by people's homes and seeing them inside the window at night.
Yeah.
So I think I have a curiosity about the world that hasn't been satisfied, and I don't think it ever will be. And then my family's all over. Like my little brother lives in Japan. My father lives in Accra. I have family in different parts of the U.S. and my extended family is Czech for my sister's marriage. And so it's just, I don't really feel like home is a location, because I haven't found that place yet where I feel like I belong.
Yeah. So for me, it's I think I figured it out completely 2-3 years ago. Well, still living in it, because I feel like there's no ending point of what that is. But as someone who has been moving, but just as a young kid who was constantly just asked, like, where are you from? I was born here, raised here, but just the way I think, what I would say would shock people and be like, oh, where are you from? Why do you believe in this? This is what we believe in. I just thought different. So just from that perspective, I was questioned. Then I started moving, I started getting information, I started realizing that the world is bigger than what we know. And as I kept moving, I felt this need to identify what home was. What's home? And now my body is my home, because I realized that this is the most consistent thing that I move with. It's the most consistent thing that I take care of. It's the most consistent thing that I spend time with, right? And the theory of the body being our biggest data collector. So the body is constantly collecting experiences and all of this. So I always say that my body is my home first. My partner is home. So wherever I find myself and wherever my partner is, that's home. It could be anywhere, So that's my starting point for home right now. Yeah. So my question now for you is, in this journey, in this search for the truth, do you think that you're ever gonna stop one day and be like, okay, it's time to rest?
In terms of being an artist, or searching, like in terms of searching for the...
Yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
in terms of being an artist, in terms of personal identity, in terms of finding balance, as the person you are, the artist, the woman, the partner, the sister, the daughter, the friend, all of these
Hmm.
things that you are, you know. Do you think that there's a point where we stop?
No, I don't think so. I mean, there have been times where I stopped making art, where I was struggling financially, and it didn't really make sense to me that I'm going to spend my extra time after I come home from work making art that no one was asking to see or do anything with. But I feel like that spirit of creativity is always with me, and so it just manifests in different forms. For a long time, I was interested in cooking enough that I was like seriously considering pursuing it as a career, and I've been interested in writing. So I think, I'm someone who always has some kind of creative thing going on,
Okay.
regardless of if it's sanctioned as art or not.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
think that'll continue.
Yeah. You would find different avenues, definitely. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay. So Addoley is an artist now. Now let's look into relationships, right?
Okay.
As someone who is constantly moving, right?
Yeah.
How do you balance your relationship first? Let's start with just the most immediate. How do you balance your relationship with your parent and your siblings? How do you make them
Hmm.
understand your journey?
I think they all understand because both of my parents were people who yearned to leave the place they were from and see a new place. So my mother grew up in a mostly white community in Ohio in the US. And she was curious about the world. And what actually got her to Ghana was she was at it was like a research program during the summer at another university. And she met all these international students. And there was a man from Ghana that she ended up dating. And he was like, my country's amazing, it's wonderful, I want to go back someday and you should see it. And so she was trying to figure out ways to travel, and she joined the Peace Corps and went to Ghana and met my father there. And my father, as a child, used to see airplanes flying over, and his grandmother would say like, oh, if you study hard and work hard someday, maybe you'll be in one of those airplanes, and you'll travel so much you'll be sick of it. And that's exactly what happened to him. He traveled for work and back and forth all the time between the US and different parts of Africa. And so they understand that kind of drive to see new places and uh, do do something different than maybe their parents were able to do. And then my siblings also, I mean, my brother lives in Japan, and he just, he was interested in the culture and the language, and really dedicated himself to learning the language, and
Oh, wow.
pursued work there until he was able to go there. And so now he's made a life there. And so my family has no problem with the life that I live. They actually see it as exciting. Like, where can we visit Addoley and Linden, especially my mom. But when it comes to like, I guess you're probably going to move on to
Yes.
my
Yeah.
relationship with my
Yeah.
partner.
Yeah.
Yeah. When it comes to that, I mean, he also likes to travel, and we're both artists. So one of the issues that we face is we get different opportunities that happen at the same time. And so we're unable to experience those things with each other. Like, when I came to Ghana to do the residency with Ose Duro, he was in the Netherlands doing a residency there, so he couldn't come. So in some ways we miss out on some of these experiences, but then also we're able to have these exciting things that we do on our own that we can bring back to the relationship and talk about. And I heard a relationship coach saying that a lot of people think date nights are important for their relationship, but what's more interesting and that keeps a relationship more fresh is when you do things separately and then you kind of report back to each other. So you're still this interesting person who has like a life in the world with other people, and you come back and you say like, this is what I did, and you tell your story.
Okay.
So
So
that's kind of an approach.
yeah, that's it's amazing because it just shows how much of an importance a parent is to their kids. You know,
Hmm.
like you you guys were given this gift of um be curious. You know, be curious,
Hmm.
and there's no danger in moving, and it's just really nice to hear. As someone who has always desired to move, I have a conversation with my dad when we're talking about my childhood and things I would have, wanted. And now things are good, but it's really important that parents pay attention to that desire and that need of a kid, instead of
Mm-hmm.
what I think is good for them, So,
Mm-hmm.
but coming back to the relationship, it's always intriguing when I see two people who do similar things partner,
Mm-hmm.
because just as creative is crazy. So now having two people, and now having two people who are very active,
Mm-hmm.
which is always very complicated. So how do you? Okay, no, not how do you. I'll come to that. Whenever there is space in between, whenever there's space in between,
Mm-hmm.
how do you make sure that you are not distant emotionally, mentally, psychologically, and spiritually?
Yeah, that's been something that has improved over time because some people just aren't that great on the phone, and
Yeah.
my partner Lyndon is one of those people. But then I think it's because he felt he had to say something really interesting, or most days of your life are, I worked, I
Yeah.
ate, I whatever.
Yeah.
So just I think it got to be he just had to accept that that was fine. Just being in touch with each other was the important thing. Even just saying, like he said, he would often send me pictures of what he made for dinner, and he kind of makes
Oh,
these fancy dinners for himself, and it's like beautifully arranged. Um, and then video chatting is another thing that we've done, and just like propping the phone up while you're doing something else and just talking.
yeah.
But I think we've been together long enough that we feel like sure in who we are and who we are together. And we were just saying yesterday that it's really funny that for a lot of people, this Corona crisis has been the first time they've had to spend 24/7 with their partner. But for
Yeah.
us, the times when we are together, it's just that's how it normally is. So it has had no toll on our relationship so far because it's just normal to be together all the time when we are together.
Yeah. It's a gift to understand the time spent between partners. Um, I'm going through the same thing. We always spend time with each other, and it's nothing has really changed. Just the fact that, but now the lockdown is kind of off, so people are
Oh
moving.
yeah, I heard that. Yeah.
But we are still isolated. We are still isolated.
Yeah.
We're still in.
As a choice. As a choice.
Yeah, yeah, because
Yeah.
in 2 3 weeks would know
Mm-hmm.
how serious it is or not.
Yeah.
So we're coming back to the art, coming back to the art. Um, is there a desired project?
Um, yeah. A lot of the work I've been doing lately has to do with trade beads or slave beads. And so I have been recreating patterns on historical beads, ones that were there was this card system that someone made in a bead trader. And it's in the collection of the British Museum, and it shows specifically which beads were traded for what. So gold, palm oil, ivory, slaves. Um, and so I've been interested in the way that this history can be easily hidden. It's a necklace.
Yeah,
It doesn't say anything about who had it, who bought it, who wore it, who was traded for it. So I think I like materials to be related to the content of the work. So something I would like for the future is to learn more about glass, like to make things out of glass. I was going to say glass blowing, but it wouldn't be glass blowing. It would be
yeah,
like fusing
yeah.
to relate the content directly to the material.
Hmm.
But that's what
That's
I've mostly
that's
been writing
yeah.
proposals for.
That's interesting. That would be. Um, would that become your main form? eventually? Glass? Or would
No,
you be
I don't think
infusing?
so because
Yeah.
well,
Sorry.
I change my I change materials, you know, often, not that often anymore, but it used to be like each project would have a different material. But I tend, if I get too good at something, not that I'm great at textiles, or
Yeah.
there's
But
so many more processes to learn. But you know, then I start to like, I don't want to reach a super polished version of any craft. So I like it to still have a freshness. I don't
yeah,
want things
I
to
get,
be
I
look
get that.
industrially produced.
I get that. So who is your go-to person when you hit like a jackpot, when you figure a project out, who are you eager to share it with first?
Lyndon, my partner, Lyndon. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh wow. Okay.
And he actually helps me a lot with my work. Like if we're in the same place, I had a residency in Florida in January and February, and he came to visit me, and you know, we had a fun time like going to the beach and doing all the Florida things. But during the day, he would help me sew things or pin things or tape things down. So he's always helping me, and from that, he's actually, I think it's influenced his work because he started to work with textiles, and he has sewing skills now from helping me.
Okay. So eventually, do you guys plan to physically be situated in a particular country? What country, after moving around, what country do you see spending
Mm.
more time in?
So that so when I after I came to Ghana last year, I
Yeah.
was starting to think about Ghana
Oh
because I had such a
wow.
wonderful time. Yeah,
Yeah, you did.
and it was great because it was the first time I was able to do the types of things that I do. I had always been with family, and we just like, my dad drives us around to see his friends, or we hang out with family, or we, you know, we just do what he wants to do, and I did what I wanted to do. Like I did the yoga retreat with Yvette,
Yeah.
and you know, I traveled to Kumasi, I went to the beach, I went to the market, and I bought cloth, and I met a textile dealer, and he showed me like tons and tons of things. So exciting things that I was interested in, meeting like-minded people. And then another place that I really like is the Netherlands. So we had considered living there, but Lyndon recently got a job as a university professor. So he's starting in August. So we're going to live in the US for a while,
Oh wow.
even though, yeah, even though it's not my dream.
Yeah. But then your dream is right around the corner. It will happen. So
Yeah, I think so.
wow, okay. So you no longer be in this, yeah, so he moves from the Netherlands and he comes back to the US.
Well, he finished the program in the Netherlands in July of 2019, and then he did more residencies, so in Canada and Ireland. So he came here from Ireland in March, and there was really nothing. He had nothing after that. Like it was going to be the end of three years of residencies and travel. But then he got this job, which is actually really exciting because it gives stability, which we've never had. So it gives like stability and also a little more freedom, you know, um, because it's not a heavy teaching load, and it's an institution that really cares about artists making their work and pursuing their artistic goals, as well as, you know, being professors.
Yeah. So just rounding up. What is America for you now? What when you look at America, forget all everything that comes with. For you, what does America
Hmm.
represent for you?
Um, for me, I feel like it represents something that keeps pulling me back. Like it's something, in some ways, I want nothing to do with it. You know, when we were living abroad, part of me was just like, I would be, I mean, besides family and friends, like I would be fine with never going back there, because I would always be like, what is there for me there? But at the same time, a lot of the opportunities I've had, a lot of the awards I've gotten have to do with being here and working here and being an American. So I don't know, like I don't know what the reality of my art career would be living anywhere else. I don't know how I would sustain myself financially, but I was willing to try. because the ideals of this place don't match with mine. The system, as everyone can see so plainly now, the system is not made for people. It's made for, a certain group of rich people who really don't care about anyone else. Just basic thing, just seeing the contrast and yeah.
And I feel like your practice would survive anywhere. I think your practice would survive anywhere because because you're very, very particular. So you definitely would find you definitely would easily find how to weave your practice within the system and within the community and environment you find yourself. So I'm sending you love in America. And I would definitely like a situation where there's this day and we look back and we'll be like, hey, so she now has a house in Ghana. And and that let's see if that will come to pass.
Yeah. Thank you.
So Addoley, thank you very much for taking this call. I know it was all over the place, but this is how I really love to do interviews, because I feel like we want to touch areas that we normally do not touch,
Yeah.
And it was just nice just hearing from you and hearing your perspective about things. And I feel like you feel so grounded. You feel so like you speak from, it's very important I tell you this, you speak from a very centered place, and that has to come from years and years of work and practice. And do you know what is?
I'm always fascinated by how people perceive me versus how I perceive myself.
Yeah.
Because I don't think of myself as centered and grounded, but or calming or any of those things. So it's interesting the way that the world can see you versus how you feel inside.
Yes,
do you feel like how people see you is how you see yourself?
Most times no. No. So when I stumble on the people, but there are few people who've been able to get it almost right, and when I stumble on those people, I'll be like, yes. Yeah. But one of the things I realized is that sometimes the way people see me, when I let go, I can see what they see, and that doesn't completely make what I see about myself wrong or what they see about me wrong. Sometimes I struggle with it, but sometimes I'm very okay with putting them side by side and be like, oh, okay, it's fine. Yeah. So I want to say bye now.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. And
thank
please, if we can do this again with the two of you, I think we should do it and discuss about how partnership work within practice. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, we can do that. Okay. Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Yeah, thank you.